factoring is writing an expression as a product of factors. The greatest common factor, or GCF, is when the common factor with the greatest coefficient and the greatest exponent. So let's look at factoring this using the greatest common factor. The greatest common factor between 9 and 18 is 9. And looking at our variables, x squared and no x's, so we can't factor out any variables. So if I factored out a 9, I know I'm left with 1 x squared. And I factored out a 9 from the negative 18, so I'll go with the negative 2. So the greatest common factor between 4 and 2 is 2. Here I have w squared and a w, so I'm able to factor out a w. So 4 divided by 2, I'm left with a 2, and w squared divided by w, I'm left with 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1, w divided by w is also 1. So I factor out, and I'm left with a 2w plus 1. Let's look back and remember how to FOIL. So when we FOIL, our first, so x times x is x squared. X times 3 is 3x. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 3 is 6. So then to combine our like terms, 3x plus 2x, we have 5x. So here's how we FOIL. So I'll get a couple more. X times x is x squared. X times a negative 2 is a negative 2x. Negative 4 times x is a negative 4x. Negative 4 times a negative 2 is a positive 8. So combine our like terms. Negative 2x minus 2x, or 4x, sorry, is a negative 6x. And x times x is x squared. X times 3 is 3x. Negative 4 times x is a negative 4x. And negative 4 times 3 is a negative 12. So combine our like terms. 3x minus 4x is a negative x minus 12. So let's look at factoring when we have a trinomial. So when c is positive and b is positive, both factors will be positive. So meaning both of our c's are positive and our b. So our factors will both be positive. When c is positive but b is negative, both factors will be negative. So when c is positive but b is negative, both of our factors will be negative. And then when c is negative, one factor will be negative, the other will be positive. So when c is negative, we have one positive, one negative. So let's factor these. I know x times x will get me my x squared. I know that both of my b and c are positive, so that means both of my factors will be positive. So now I want to factor out my 40. I know I have 1 times 40, 2 times 20, 4 times 10, 5 times 8, and that's it. So we want to know which grouping of numbers will multiply to get 40, but also add to be 14, which is my 4 and 10. So this is my factoring. Let's factor this one. To get my x squared, I know I need an x and an x. My c is negative, so that means 1 needs to be negative, 1 needs to be positive. So let's factor out our 10. We have 1 and 10, and 2 and 5. So to get to our 3, we would use 2 and 5, and to have a positive 3, that means we'd have to have negative 2 and a positive 5. So negative 2 times 5 is a negative 10, but a negative 2 plus 5 is a positive 3. Let's look at our last example. So we know we need to get x squared, so we have x times x to get x squared. Our c is positive, but our b is negative. So that means both factors are negative. So let's look at our factors of 24. 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. So in order to get a negative 11, we would use 3 and 8. Negative 3 times negative 8 is a positive 24. Negative 3 minus 8 is a negative 11.